Malta, the EU's smallest member, is surrounded by the blue of the Mediterranean. Warm, welcoming, proud, the people of Malta have big dreams for Europe. We traveled to the island nation to get to know someone whose life has been inspired by these dreams. An activist, lawmaker, bridge builder, and friend. A fighter for truth and justice and respect. A strong woman inspiring others with her vision for all that Europe can be and passing on her values to the next generation. This is Roberta Metzola's story. Hello.
Hello, hello. Welcome, Nathan. Nice to see you.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
Good.
I'm doing great.
Good.
How are you?
Yeah, welcome to my university. Well, it's not mine. It used to be mine.
Tell us where we are now.
So here we are at university in a place called the Quadrangle, which is, let's say, the place where you would see first when you come into university as a fresher, first day, and you'd have all sorts of stands and organizations encouraging you to join them, ranging from sports to politics. That is something that I did on the first day I came to university. When
Sports or politics?
Politics, of course. At the time there was quite an active discussion as to whether Malta should join the EU or not. And it was quite clear at the time that the Christian Democrats and the organization of students that represented that pro-European movement was here, and I joined SDM, which is my home organization, my mother organization, and we would spend then all our time, rather than studying in all the lecture halls, in this students' house, which is where all the organizations spend their time doing campaigns, fighting for the rights of students, accessibility a lot. I used to work a lot on disability issues at the time. A very different time, but the place looks exactly the same. Well, maybe without the umbrellas.
So this was your first entrance into electoral politics, you could say?
Yes, more or less, you could say that. Yeah, it was more of an activist campaign, which was a pro-European one, where we would spend the time running around the country, but also trying to convince the student body to understand that for students the only way was Europe. And it was not as easy as I thought it would be in the beginning, but in the end it worked.
So could I ask you, what kind of student were you?
What did I study, or what kind of student?
You said with all of this activism, was there time to go to the library as well?
I did not spend a lot of time in the library, although I was a good student. I think I spent more time being an activist than a student, and I would cram quite a lot of studies at the end. But I loved constitutional law and I loved European law. And then my other subject was sociology, so I used to do a lot of political theory, political sociology. So those subjects I really worked on.
Sounds like even at this age you had this understanding that if you want something, you have to push for it and fight for it. Nothing is inevitable.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where did that come from, do you think?
When I joined the university, I was encouraged by a group of older students who said we need young, fresh blood. In fact, they had t-shirts called Fresh Thinking, different political slogans, politics makes strange bedfellows, all these kind of posters that I saw when I first came, along notice boards, pre-social media time. And that older generation, very good lawyers now, I know some of them also in politics, had said we need a new fresh crop. And they selected us and we took over that mantle of activism, which was really something that meant that yes, if you want something done, you need to do it. And I think that was the biggest challenge at the time, and I think it is the biggest challenge today, how to convince someone not only to vote, that is already quite hard on anything, but to take a position, and then once you have that position, fight for it yourself, rather than let someone else fight for it, because somebody will, and you might not like the result.
I think you're going to be passing that message on to students in a few minutes at an event.
Absolutely.
January of 1979, a year which turned out to be particularly consequential. It's the year the United States and China established full diplomatic relations. Iran became the Islamic Republic we know today. Soviets invaded Afghanistan. The Grand Mosque in Mecca was seized for many days. All that just to frame a bit the generation you were born into. I could also say, less consequentially, some of the top 10 songs from that year were My Sharona, I Will Survive, Hot Stuff, and YMCA. So, 1979, you were born.
Big year.
I want to ask you a series of questions to get to know you a bit.
Okay.
Where were you kind of questions? What were you feeling? What was the impression? What was it like when certain other big consequential moments in history occurred during your own lifetime?
Okay.
So, November 1989, fall of the Berlin Wall.
Well, I was 10 years old, and that's what everybody in my house was talking about. And I associate these big events and dates, like you just mentioned, specifically with something that my parents would start to talk about all the time. That was a decade where, even in this country, there had been a long strife for freedom, a long strife for a new, let's say, a pro-democratic system, a future looking towards Europe's country. And on that day and during that process, I remember my parents saying, it's going to happen, and my mother asking, do you think it will happen? Will the wall come down? Will there be? I remember victims, how many people have died so far, how much work has there been done from all parts of the world in order for this big divide to come crumbling physically down. So that was a really big moment for us, for me as a 10-year-old.
May 2004, Malta's accession to the European Union.
If we look behind this building, so on the other side, across the harbour, was, I think, one of the most spectacular fireworks displays in Europe. This was a moment which we had worked for decades. And we were all gathered, thousands and thousands of people on different roofs, anybody clambering to get a visual. And the amazing moment at midnight when the whole fireworks display. There is a movie you could see of the blue flag and the stars on the bastions, the fortifications of, the great civilization of this country that was moving into the next big chapter.
Wow. You really feel the energy and
that
imagine
was amazing.
that. June 2016, Brexit referendum.
Disbelief. I had gone to sleep thinking that Nigel Farage had lost. I think he did too. But in the morning, similar to Donald Trump's election, a different reality, and a sense of overwhelming sadness and regret. I still feel that sadness and regret, especially because I come from a country that is very close to the United Kingdom. I am a lawyer. We studied the legal system that we inherited from the English, the common law system. Very sad, very regrettable. When we look at somebody from the United Kingdom and the wealth of knowledge, history, legal practice, also democratic system that we have seen for centuries, are no longer around that table that we joined in 2004. And I'm still very happy to be there.
October 2017, the assassination of Daphne Caruana Galizia.
I was in the European Parliament. It was a Monday afternoon. I think it was a Monday, yes. I was in the Terrorism Committee, a new committee that had been set up to address something that the European Parliament wanted to have a report on. And I started to receive WhatsApp messages. Something happened in Bitnia. And my first instinct was, Daphne lives in Bitnia. I sent her a message, which I still have as an undelivered message. Are you okay? I never received a reply. I ran out of the room. I got a message from some colleagues that there was a question at the time whether it was confirmed that it was Daphne or not. My instinct was to go on her blog. She was an avid writer and would upload her journal multiple times a day, and I remember seeing that she had not uploaded a new story, and therefore I kept refreshing, and I did that for weeks after that. The instinct for all of us would be, when we woke up, was to check her blog before any other news site. That's what I did, a lot of people. My mother says the same. And that I remember I wanted to be here. In fact, we flew down quite soon, and the overwhelm. I mean, I think what happened is people poured out of their house, brought candles, and descended in the Slima St. Julian's area, just to walk aimlessly in a sort of procession of disbelief, but also, again, emotional sadness, but anger that the system and a group of people who hate decided to assassinate somebody whose only aim was to seek the truth. And in that instant, this country lost one of its most prolific writers, one of its bravest women, a mother, a wife, and a daughter.
The assassination of Daphne Caruana Galizia shook all Malta. Her work was a threat to corrupt and powerful people. Roberta is still fighting to bring all of Daphne's murderers to justice. She is committed to honoring her profound legacy. Roberta's constituency includes the whole country of Malta, including the beautiful island of Gozo, home to the Gozatans. To get there means taking a ferry, and that's what Roberta does every week, visiting villagers all across the island. We tagged along. I wanted to ask you about something else. I heard in a video message you gave a couple of days ago. You said, quote, "Women inspire me." What exactly did you mean by that?
I think we don't talk enough about who inspires you. Like, why do you do what you do? And I was asked that question, and I said, actually, during the COVID pandemic, when you look at the different experiences of different people, I have entered homes where you have seen mothers that have said this has been the most difficult challenge we've ever faced. I have entered businesses owned by women who say this has been the most difficult challenge we have ever faced, but we're ready to fight back and regain our losses. But also in politics, I think this is a year where we look back and say the first female president of the European Parliament was 40 years ago, the last one was 20 years ago. Why not the European Parliament become a leader for women, young girls in schools, looking at us who are currently, let's say, serving on the shoulders of these giants, if we start with Simone Veil, but also continue with Angela Merkel, that we should give that impression and that sense of drive to our young women and our young girls. And I also said that women who struggle to those challenges, but then as soon as they struggle, they realize they have to get right back up and continue walking and never give up. And that was the message that I wanted to give to all women out there.
I think that's a good segue to the next question I wanted to ask you. You've been described, I think, as a moderate and a bridge builder, and you yourself have described your being elected as first Vice President of the European Parliament as an opportunity to move beyond the mentality of, quote, red and blue tribes or blind
Absolutely.
partisanship, in other words, and to really be of service and give a voice to all of your fellow Maltese citizens. So at this point in your career, whom do you most want to give a voice to?
I would like, first of all, to see a society where divisions, hatred of the unknown, but also the idea that because you don't agree with someone, then that has to end up in aggression and hostility. And that is what I want to send with this message of, we can do it. It does not matter which town or village you were born in, but if you have those values instilled in you that our parents gave us, but also the founding fathers of the European Union gave us, then I think that anybody can do it. And when you say build bridges, when you look across the room and make agreements, I come from a house where I have 4 boys. I spend most of my time trying to balance competing interests when things can be completely opposite at the opposite end of the stick. I would like to send a message that this European Parliament gathers politicians from all 27 member states, elected by the citizens, elected to fight for better policy on migration, better climate ambitions, better standard and quality of life for all our citizens, making sure that no one is left behind. We are diverse, we have different languages, different cultures, different traditions, different abilities, but the European Parliament is that home for everybody to do something good.
All of these people in the European Parliament and across Europe working together to overcome challenges, to share triumphs, reflects a beautiful diversity. Your own family is multinational, is mixed. So what is that like?
I'm married to a Finn whom I met in youth politics, protesting against, at the time, the Lukashenko regime all over the European Union. We would go to Prime Minister summits, European councils at the time, with our posters saying we stand for the rule of law, we stand for values, we stand for peace, we stand for democracy. That's how I realized that being European means that you can bring people of different countries together around the table to discuss, but also sometimes they end up in romance, and that's what happened in my case. And as a result, we have 4 sons. When you ask them, where do you come from, they tell you, we are European. We are half Maltese, we are half Finnish, we come from the extreme opposite parts of European Union. But that's the beauty of it, and that beauty means that they can look around in their classrooms. They are not the only ones. If I compare to the classroom I was brought up in, the scenario is very different. The different mix of nationalities, but also the sense of purpose that our children are growing in a very multinational, tolerant world. And the risk is that we look away for a second and realize that intolerance that is growing will overcome the sense of tolerance that we have brought. And that is something that I also want to instill in my children. And I count for that fact that we have these 2 nationalities in a house that bring together the sense of calmness of the North, the passion of the South, somewhere in the middle in my house.
If there's one word that would describe for you the kind of Europe you want your 4 boys to inherit, what would it be?
Respect. Respect for different values, respect for different cultures, different traditions, different arguments. But when you do respect another person, then you can really go through life knowing that you can navigate, you can argue, you can make deals, you can succeed. And that is what I want my boys to learn and grow up with.
A united Europe of freedom and respect that empowers and inspires. This is the Europe she has fought for as a student, in her own family, and in representing her fellow citizens with passion and conviction. This is Roberta Metzola's story. This is an EPP story.